Hey everybody, welcome back to Geek Out here in Old Town Burleson. I, as always, am your favorite bearded hero, Charles, and I'm here with my friend from DX Envoy, Michael. Michael, tell us about yourself, man.
Hi, Michael. I work with Double Exposure Envoy. I'm a herald for them. I go around doing demos for several different games for different companies. And today we're going to be doing Disney Sorcerer Arena Epic Alliances. It just came out, and it's a game I'm passionate about, so I was really excited to come show it off here at Geek Out.
All right, and what kind of game is Sorcerer's Arena?
It's a battle arena game using some of the greatest heroes and villains of the Disney universe. And this is anything from Pixar movies to like Fantasia with Sorcerer's Mickey, you got Aladdin, Gaston and Ariel, just everything. There's going to be a whole bunch of expansions coming out, including everything from like Pirates of the Caribbean movies for some of the villains and heroes. So it's a little bit of everything, different characters and movies that everyone loves. So,
and he told me they're going to be doing stuff for my favorite, Tron.
Yeah, Korra is actually a character. It's based on the mobile game, which is where they took a lot of these characters from. So expansions are going to be coming out. We know of at least 3 expansions so far, and the first one, I believe, is next month. It's Oceanic expansion. That's going to include Moana, Stitch, and Davy Jones.
Very cool. And what comes in these expansions? I noticed you got some cards.
The main game is going to come with 8 different characters.
Okay.
So Aladdin, Sorcerer's Mickey, Ariel, Gaston. That's what we're going to be playing for this initial demo.
Hold this up real quick.
But it's also going to include all the way from like Gargoyles, the TV show back in the 90s. It's Demona. And then you'll have Maleficent, Sully from Monsters Inc., and Dr. Facilier from the Princess and the Frog. So a great starter thing, a whole bunch of different kinds of characters that you have. So we're going to be playing one of the basic demo games. The game gets a lot more in depth, but this just kind of explains to everyone the basic rules to the game, and it gets much more complicated from there. The meta is going to be great. This game will be able to do like tournaments, which anyone who comes in and wants to play, we got little tournament boxes for them for future play. So the initial teams that we're going to be playing against is going to be Sorcerer, Mickey, and Aladdin versus Gaston and Ariel. You guys can kind of see some great figures. I love that these have forward, fronts, and backs. You can kind of gives a perspective on the characters. It's a fun little detail they did.
One of the things is like the player bases are kind of similar to the way like you would play Hero Click. Whenever you make actions, they move. And we'll go into the details of how that works.
Because that's how you track your health.
That's really the only thing.
For everything. And they put different bases per color, what you're going to use.
Yeah.
So,
do I need cool little cards too?
oh, did I know what those are? I know the whole
Yeah.
nice. One for Ariel.
All right.
One for Gaston.
All right.
It'll mainly just be so you know you have them. Versus in this game, we won't be using most of the effects off of these until we get much more in depth into the game.
And I will say the cards are good standard, a little bit heavier than standard cardstock even. You got all your
I'd say it's at least
character information.
200.
Yeah.
200 weight.
Yeah, they're nice feeling cards.
Yeah.
Nice feeling cards. The acrylic is a little.
Small ones are standard, which I've gone ahead and
I do hope we get a little upgrade base later, or an option for upgrade bases.
I think that's the only thing that needs a little upgrade. But I mean, they do that so that you can switch them
Switch
quickly
the colors and
for different players.
I mean, the little acrylic pieces are really nice.
Yeah, they come.
All the cardboard
Cardboard.
markers. Yeah, all the cardboard markers are really nice. We'll get into what all those mean. Yeah.
So
It's a nicely made game. Has a lot of nice pieces.
you'll get to see even some of the cooler parts of how this is all going to work together as we get going.
Okay.
We're going to be playing the Chapter 1 reference guide, so it's just going to give us the base things. The cool thing about this game is it allows you through chapters to slowly upgrade your understanding of the game, and it adds more elements in with each one.
That's cool.
So if you're like, oh, I'm just going to learn the basic, do Chapter 1, then you're like, okay, then we'll add in Chapter 2, all the way up to
Yeah.
chapters 3 and 4, which fully explain the full game.
That's really
that
cool.
we played for time.
Has probably
So since we're going to start in Chapter 1,
All right.
let's go over a base understanding of what we start with. So normally you'll choose and draft characters if you're playing with a single box, or bring your own tournament stuff. But you choose your characters, and you put your dials on them for what color you are. In this case, I've already got the initiative track pre-built, so that you can see I have the blue characters. Sorcerer Mickey will be going first, then Ariel, then Aladdin, and Gaston in that order as we do stuff.
these little markers. So you got the little blue arrows to indicate blue, or flip it over, red arrows to indicate that it's a red character.
So the heart at the top will show you how much health that character or how much damage they can sustain. The crown is how many victory points they are worth. To end a game, either you run out of cards in your deck or you earn 12 victory points by the end of a round. So a round will consist of all the characters playing. So if all the victory points are scored like at the first character's turn, the game doesn't end until the last character plays. So you could already have a victory condition, but the other player could beat out your points by the end of it and still be the victor.
Okay.
So kind of a good balance that is not all the convenient. So each character that you choose comes with a 10-card deck that has their name and their character profile on the card. For every one character you get, you'll take each of their 10-card decks and you'll shuffle them together to make your library or your deck. Now, there's lots of different effects on these cards. You notice there's a red symbol on some, and there's a green symbol on others. Red are cards that can be played during the action phase, and green cards are cards that can be played in your movement phase, which we'll get into. There's 3 other symbols that you'll find on these cards: a sword, a swirl, and an arrow. This is an attack action. The sword action, you'll see these are magical actions, and these are status effects, the things that cause status. You're kind of cool because these match the symbol of what the status effects are. So going through a basic turn to kind of understand, shuffle my deck. Normally, to determine how big your hand size is, your cards will have a symbol right here. Like in my case, it's 2 and 2, so that would be 4. That would be my normal hand size, as is determined on this. But for the sake of the demo, we're just going to draw 6 cards. So I've got 6 cards in my hand. So just like I
look
said,
at said cards.
yes, look at said cards. This will be your hand. So as I've got chapter 1 reference, the first thing you do is you check status effects and victory point spaces. Because on the board, you'll see these 3 spaces right here. Each of these, if you start your turn on, that a character starts a turn on it, you'll gain 1 victory point. So in the case we're starting at the beginning of the game, there's not going to happen. Return any active KO'd character to the arena. So say Sorcerer Mickey had been fighting and he gets knocked out. So at the beginning of his turn, he would return to the board in any of these blue squares that has stars. Now that includes my opponent's side. So if I wanted to bring him back over here after you died, that's a valid start. So characters getting knocked out doesn't mean they're out of the game, just means victory points will be scored and they'll be coming back full health later. So then at the beginning of your turn, you'll draw a card, and then you have any of these action phases you can do during the movement and action phase. You can do 1 movement phase and 1 action phase. You can do these in any order. So if I want to do actions first, then I want to do movement, I can totally do that. Now, there's more involved in each of these phases when you get further into the chapters, but for the demo game, we're just going to worry about doing these. So you can do 1 of 2 things in your movement phase. You can move your standard movement, which is 2 spaces, or you can play 1 active character card. So, like I was telling you earlier, a movement card is one of these that has this green symbol. That means you can play that during that phase.
And your movement is based right there on your card. It tells you what your movement is.
And for the sake of the demo, your movement is 2 spaces.
Okay.
Because where Aladdin would normally be able to move 3 spaces, for this demo, we're just worrying about that everyone has 2 spaces.
Okay.
So you also have some cards that have dual symbols on them like this, which allow you to play them either in the action phase or in the movement phase. And you can only play 1 card in either phase. So there's more rules, like I say, moving into that, where you can discard cards to boost movement or attack, but we're not going to worry about that in our initial demo. And it's like, in your action phase, I can play that card. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go and just start the game. So with I'm going to start with right here, because we know Mickey has to go first. I'm going to go to my movement phase, and I'm going to move 2 spaces. And then I'm going to have no action phase because I don't have any cards in my hand that I feel like would be good here. And I've got to draw a card. And because I have 6 cards in my hand, or 7 cards in my hand at this point, I have to choose to
Discard something.
discard a card.
Okay.
Now, there are 2 different things. One will say discard, and one will say banish. Discard means it goes into your discard pile. Banish means it's removed from the game. There are some effects that allow to do that. It's important because some card functions may allow you to pull cards out of your discard pile, for doing stuff, but if it's banished, it's out of the game. Can't do it.
Similar to your graveyard and exile to magic.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
we've got
Sorcerer.
little clicky bases, so elements of hero clicks. We got our graveyard and our banishment or our graveyard exile comparison for magic, and we've got a board. So it's a little bit of we got 3 different games rocking.
Oh
right
yeah,
now.
and when you get further in, it's going to get there's even more depth to it than that. So Sorcerer Mickey has discarded. I've discarded down. I've ended my turn. So we'll move to Eric.
All right. So Ariel has 2 movements. So we'll move her right there. And then
move to your action phase.
Move to action phase. And
like I say, this is where it gets more complicated because there's lots of different card effects that each different character can do that kind of are to their theme. Where Ariel's more of like a support healer ranged character, while Gaston is very much a up in your face fighter combatant. Mickey is a ranged area effect character, while Aladdin is a stealthy melee fighter. So he likes to move around and do so. So each of these different characters plays very differently.
You said range. Is there a difference between range symbols or close combat? Or...
Okay, so there's 2 different symbols when it comes to attacking a person. You'll see the one that has the arrows pointing in.
Okay.
Which will mean it's a direct effect, which means you
have to be directly
target that character. Now that may be adjacent or maybe a ranged direct effect, but it's one that targets a character direct. There's ones where it has arrows pointing outwards. Those are indirect effects. That's where usually you get to choose the targets, or it's a broad effect that the card will tell you who it affects.
Okay.
Some cards, some abilities, which we'll get to when we start getting the status effects, will have an effect on that, such as stealth. If a character becomes stealthy, if you do a direct attack on that character, to do damage, you have to banish a card from your hand. So exile like in Magic. So while that's not as big of effect in this initial game, when we get into a much more detailed game of the further game, discard cards can become resources that you use to upgrade your characters. But we're not going to worry about that right now.
Okay.
So banished cards can actually, that can be a negative effect if you don't have enough to upgrade your characters.
Okay. So I do not have anything that will benefit me in my hand, so I will draw a card and then discard down, right?
Mm-hmm. You draw at the beginning before you do that, but it's not a huge deal.
Cool.
Discard
right there.
Yeah, the first turn is usually posturing, and then this game gets very fast paced past that. So it's Aladdin's turn. So I will draw a card. And here's an example. I will play a movement card in my movement phase. It allows me to move up to 2 spaces. And then I gain 2 stealthy. So to do that, I take the status effect thing, I put it right in there as card. I take the number of tokens that it says on there, and I place it on that character.
All right. And so 2 stealthy, what does that mean?
So now it gives him 2 stealth tokens. So stealth is if you want to attack him with a direct attack, you can, but you have to discard a card from your hand. Banish a card from your hand to damage him directly.
Okay.
And if it's one of those that has the arrows pointing outwards, it's indirect attack, it can target him.
Okay.
Without having to discard.
And so if he's targeted once, does he lose an action? Does he lose a token? Can he use it only twice? So
at the beginning of the first thing you do anything is to check status effects and VP spaces. So victory points if they're on this. So at the beginning of every turn, a token gets removed from them.
Okay.
So you can it's kind of a counter that you see.
Okay.
On
so for 2 turns, he has stealthy.
Yes, for this turn, and at the beginning of his next turn, he'll lose it, and then at the beginning of his next turn, he will no longer be stealthy.
Cool.
Now, this stack can get built up. If I continue adding stealthy effects, I can keep adding tokens to that. Especially you'll see with like magic brooms that will affect Mickey. That is a status that I will try to stack as a resource.
Okay.
To give him more things. And when we add magic brooms, they have a second effect. And I'll show you that one minute.
Okay. Cool.
Well, good.
So I move him up. I don't have any actions that I want to take with him. So I will end my turn. And it moves on to Gaston.
All right. So from there, I will draw a card. And I will move Gaston
storage is actually accessible.
2, and then we will leave it there.
Okay. So that's the end of the round. We check this. We'll see if anyone has enough victory points to have won the game. In this demo, it's 12.
Okay.
No one has any victory points. So we go ahead and move back to the beginning of the test. So check for status effects. No one's on a DP space in the beginning. No one's knocked out. So I'll go ahead and draw a card and begin my turn. So for my movement phase,
So I have a question. You said you check status effects and VP spaces. Is that whenever you learn?
it's like each of that individual character's turns.
Oh, okay.
So like if he had been here, then I would have gained a victory point for that character.
Okay, cool.
Or removed any status tokens from him. So at first, I'm going to do study status. It allows me to move up 2 spaces, which I will move here. And then I add 2 magic brooms to Sorcerer's Apprentice. So I had 2 tokens. And it tells me 2 magic brooms.
Okay.
Then, for my action phase, I shall use Magical Mod. Sorcerer's Apprentice Mickey gains 2 magic brooms. So I have 2 more tokens. So now a total of 4 tokens are on there. And then it's a direct action. A direct action. Choose up to 1 adjacent rival. So I have Ariel's an adjacent rival. Deal 1 damage to rival for each stats counter on Sorcerer's Apprentice Mickey's magic broom. Which in this case, I have 4. So it does 4 damage to Ariel.
So she goes from 8 down to 4.
Yeah.
So I don't have too many cards in my hand, so it's no need to discard. And I get my turn. Anything I'm doing here?
All right. So Ariel is right there.
So you can see I'm bringing this time to like advantage, and he started summoning more and more rooms. They start getting him more and more power if he goes.
So Ariel, can I move her out of combat?
Yes.
Okay.
You can move your number of movement, and you can move through allies, but not through rivals.
Okay.
Unless, like I said, card effect allows you to, which there's always an exception.
So Ariel will move here. And as action, we'll play Curative Bubbles, which heals her 8 points. So she goes back to full health.
Yep.
I forgot to draw the card.
That's okay. I'm going to do that.
So she's on that and back to full health and pull it. And since I played card, I have 2, 4, 6, 7. Supposed to have 7, correct?
6.
6. Okay, so I do have this card. We will. All right, so I'm down to 6. And back to your turn.
So we move initiative on. So now we check status effects. I do have a status effect. So for each status effect, you remove 1 token. So he remains stealthy because there is still a token left on there. No victory points for him since he doesn't have that. No one's he's not KO'd, so I don't have to worry about that. So I begin my turn here with drawing a card. And I go into his action phase. So I'm going to go ahead and move 2 spaces. And I will do a basic attack against Ariel with 11, which is just a standard attack, which is 2 damage. As he just punches him. Or kicks her over. Over street rat tactics. Aladdin style.
Hits her with a low reply.
Yep, they all look. So that's the end of my turn. I don't have to discard down because I have 6 cards in my hand. And I'll end my turn and guess on activates.
All right, so draw a card.
Ariel's healing is a big thing you have to fight through.
So movement.
And like I said, you can actually do these any order. So you could act and then move.
I'm gonna move here and use the action Sheer Bravado, which normally would deal 4 damage if cast on an arrival or not adjacent to any other characters, deal 6 instead.
Yep,
So
that's 6 damage.
damage to Mickey.
It takes up to 8 down to 2. 1 hit.
And 2, 4, 6. So I don't have to do this far down. And if that will be the end of my turn.
Big round. So we'll move back up to Mickey. So check for status effect. So this is where Magic Broom's other effect comes in. When a status counter is removed from Magic Broom during the starting phase, this character's center lists the top 2 cards in the deck and returns them in any order. It then reveals the top card of the deck. That card's a magic card, which we'll see that symbol on there. You get to keep the Magic Broom that you would take off. So I always pull this top one off, set it aside, and then look at the top 2 cards in my deck. In this case, I'll put that on top. Then reveal the top card of my deck. It indeed
Is magic.
has a magic symbol. So that Magic Broom will stay on Mickey. So then I will now start my turn. I will start with the card that I was able to switch out that I picked. So I can move 2 spaces. 1, 2. And then I get to add 2 Magic Brooms to Sorcerer's Apprentice Mickey. So that brings me up to 6 tokens. I will then once again play my other magical mob, which allows me to gain
So how many cards can you play per turn?
1 per phase. So that was my movement phase, as you can see by that arrow, and now I'm doing my action phase.
Okay. So I can use a green card and a red card in one of these.
You can use a green card in the green phase and a red card in red phase, or one of those that has like this one. You can use that in either phase.
Oh, okay.
So it gives you some flexibility with those cards. So in this case, I believe I'm at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 magical brooms on him. So I will go ahead and hit Gaston
Okay.
in that phase for 8 damage. The magical brooms
Down to
pummel him. So with that one my turn. I have 5 cards in hand, so I don't need to discard.
So Ariel's turn. I am not going to move, but I am going to do 2 life.
So standard attack with damage.
Standard attack would have taken him out, so I can. Now, do the magic brooms give you any defensive effect, or they just give you offensive effect?
Usually in this case, an offensive effect. For when you get to use magical mob, there's other cards that Mickey gets to synergize off of, not just with magic brooms, but any kind of status effects that can sometimes give him bonuses.
Okay, so so he has no extra defensive functions right now at all. So I'll save the card and the draw card. 2, 4, 6. I did not draw a card. There you go. All right, and so I will standard attack to Mickey.
Standard attack, that will take him down to 0. So now Mickey is worth 4 victory points. So you gain 4 victory points.
Cool. So what do the gold spaces mean?
Oh, yes, thank you. She was already on that square. So at the beginning of your turn, you gain a victory point.
And at the beginning of your turn, Mickey was on one, so you get a victory.
Yes, thank you. I quite forget about this sometimes.
All right, and 2, 4, 6, 7. So I will.
So then we once again move initiative card around and remove 1 from Stealthy, which would take Stealthy.
All right.
And this remove when human.
Okay. He doesn't get it back. He has to earn it back.
Yes, earn it back.
Okay.
So That makes it Aladdin's turn. So because I'm going to go ahead and do. I'm going to go ahead and use Stun Run. I'm going to do 2 damage to one adjacent rival. That rival gains 2 immobilized. So I'm going to go ahead and this is my movement. I'm going to use this as, and I can move 1 space. So she'll take 2 damage. And she gains the immobilized status effect.
And what does that do?
So what that means is she cannot move. She cannot be moved. So on her turn, that's all she cannot any movement action, anything that another character can do to move her, can't move her. If she would move, she's not moved until that goes.
Okay. But she can still attack?
Yes. So he moves up to 1 space, and I'm actually going to move here for the sake of hitting and then moving. And then I am going to just do a standard attack against Gaston for 2 damage.
So that goes in out for this one until the end.
Yep. So he is worth 6 victory points.
Yes.
So I get 6 victory points.
Cool.
That'll be the end of my turn.
All right.
And that will move us on to Gaston. Now Gaston is knocked out.
Dead, so
He can reappear in any of these squares that have stars on it. That side or this side. Kind of gives you an advantage to see where things are going on in the battlefield, allows you to jump back in, and he comes back at full health. So just because character dies doesn't mean that they're not going to be super effective, because they can jump right back in behind someone and possibly knock someone out. So there's a lot of strategy of where you leave your characters and where you're knocking characters out.
all right, so I'm gonna start in on that panel. I forgot. Draw. And then for movement, I'm going to use Shrug It Off, which allows him to move 3 spaces. 2, 3.
And that also has the ability to remove any status effects that he might have had on it. So, where that would say he had immobilized, because movement happens afterwards, he would wipe in mobilize and then he'd be able to move. So, good ways to combo things.
And then we'll use Brawler, which and do 4 damage to. That was dumb, honey. Should have moved into that side because then he would have done 6 damage.
Oh, because you're adjacent to an ally.
Yep.
Okay.
No worries.
And we have to go to the end of the round.
If that rival is not adjacent to any of your other rivals, that it was a different card last time I used. If that rival is any of the other rivals, that rival summoner chooses and banishes a card from their hand.
Oh, see, so I could banish a card from my hand, so I would banish that one out of the game. Cool. So we check at the end. No one is at 12 victory points yet, so we go ahead and move to the beginning of the round. And I will play Sorcerer Mickey right there. So I will move him up. I'm going to use Mystical Momentum to move up to 2 spaces. And 2 for him at full health. So I do actually go to over here to support Aladdin. And that allows me to add 2 magic rooms.
You use stupid magic rooms.
To make it, he has another effect. If you had more than 2 magic rooms on, if you had 3 status effects, if you had 3 status effects on him, so it wouldn't matter if it was stealth or anything else. If he had up to 3 counters on him, it allowed him to have an additional movement phase. But in this case, I only have 2, so it doesn't allow me to do that. I'm not adjacent to anyone, and I don't have anything else, so I'm going to choose to get my turn. Okay. So
moves to Ariel.
Move to Ariel. She loses one immobilized token, but she still has one remaining. So she is still immobilized.
Yep. And
But
now
it's Ariel's turn. So don't forget, gain a victory point for being on a victory point. But
all right. So undercurrent, I'll use during my movement phase. Remove all status effects. They won't really matter. It's my next turn. I still can't move. Correct.
Oh,
This is my movement.
let me see what it says. Oh, it's an action.
Okay.
So choose one. Remove all status effects from one character,
Okay.
or discard another action card to remove all status effects from two characters. Now, I want you to note,
Does that mean I can remove status effects from you as well?
it's a character.
Okay. So if I discard another card, then I'll remove status card
From two.
characters.
So you could absolutely get rid of my stuff and my magic ring. So now she hasn't moved yet this turn, but she has an action. So she's no longer immobilized. She can move.
Okay. So she's not immobilized anymore, but we will. Oh. So I didn't have to remove stuff. I didn't have to remove that. I didn't have to discard, but either way.
But it gave you the ability to move this turn if you
Yes.
wanted to.
She's pretty safe right there, so I'm going to leave her right there for right now, and that will be my turn.
Okay. Then we will move next to Mr. Aladdin. No statuses or anything on him, so I'll go ahead and draw a card. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and play Bold Thievery. Choose a rival adjacent to Aladdin. That rival summoner banishes a random card from their hand, and you draw a card. So I'll just, there you go. Banish from your card. Banish. Out of the game. And then I get to draw a card.
All right.
And I can move 2 spaces as part of that. So I move 2, and I'm just going to do a basic standard attack against her, dealing 2 damage to Ariel.
She was down to 2.
And that's in my turn. Allowing Mr. Gaston. Don't forget to draw a card.
So
No status, no victory points to gain based on where they are. So your movement and action.
So I'm going to use the Let's Dance card. I'm going to move. Can I take that back?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not going to use that right now. I'm going to move Gaston on here. And I'm going to shove Lad. So he's going to take 3 damage and shove him 2 spaces back. And that would be the end of my turn.
So we go to this part. No one has 12 victory points. So we go back to the beginning of the round. And I will move there's a Mickey up to there. I will play Shooting Star and do 3 damage to adjacent rival.
We're out for this.
So Ariel is out again, so I gain 4 more victory points.
At 11.
That puts me at 11 points. And that ends my turn. On Ariel.
All right.
To begin her turn. So no status effects, no victory points, additional spaces, and she gets to come back. She can go up in any of these 3 spaces or any of those 3 spaces.
All right. So he's going to show up there. She is under 2 spaces. I did not draw. And I'm going to do a basic attack for 2 against Aladdin, and that'll put him out.
So these were 6 points.
So 5, 6. So that puts me at 12.
So someone has reached 12 victory points, but we haven't reached the round yet.
Yes.
So there's still a chance for me to try to score enough to tie the game, or possibly to beat them. So we move on to Aladdin's turn, which is really going to be the most important turn for me, because if I can't score enough victory points here, I'll lose. Which I don't think I can. He has the health. We'll try. So I'll start by drawing card. And we will start with carpet switch. So I'll move 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. Aladdin will pass through rivals and deal 1 damage each rival pass through this way. So she'll take 1 point of damage.
So she is at 7 now.
And then I will play as my attack action Street Card Strike. How many cards do you have in your hand?
I have 3 cards.
Okay, so it is not used as special effect if you had more cards in hand. So it deals 3 damage to Ariel.
Puts her down to 4.
And that ends my turn. So Gaston will be able to do stuff at this point, but I won't be able to get the deficit of points going on. So if we can go ahead and move to the end of the round, you have 12 victory points. I have 11. You win the game. Congratulations.
Okay. Awesome. So let's back out a little bit so we can.
Now, that was the base version of the game, just to kind of get people understanding how actions and movements work. But there's additional rules on each card where characters have skills, which give them extra abilities. Like Mickey's ability is to discard magic cards to gain additional magic rims, which you saw in this game. Magic rims are really powerful. It allows him to really stack harder and faster. Aladdin has the ability to give himself extra stealth or heal himself if they expose the threat card of adjacent allies. So that's that as a skill action end. So where we just had 2 actions in this phase, we get into the further game. That's an additional phase of a skill phase, which is like you can do an action phase, a movement phase, you then get a skill phase to use any or all of the skills at the same time. Skills can't be broken up into like a move, a skill, an action, and the other skill. You got to use all your skills in that phase. It also allows, as we had extra cards in hands, we move on to the next round. You can discard cards that match the phase you're in. So say like I had a Mickey card that I was using Aladdin, I could discard an action thing, add a +1 damage to that character for that round. So say I was using a standard attack, I would discard this to give him +1 to that. So 3 in the case of Aladdin. The same can be done in the movement phase to give an additional space. So it allows you to use cards that don't function with your character. Then there's also fourth chapter to add a little more skill to the game. Each card has an upgrade value. When you discard cards from your hand, they go into your discard pile. In the bottom of each of these cards, there's a symbol. If you discard the matching number of symbols as to their upgrade cards, you flip your card at the beginning of that character's turn when you spin them, and they gain a powerful ability that you're allowed to use in the game. Sometimes, like Gaston's, allows you to heal, gain victory points, and move when you knock the character out. So, which is a really powerful buff, but it takes a lot of skill. And on each character's cards, it shows how many of each of those resources are in those deck of 10 cards. So it helps you with deck building to try to plan ahead to make sure you have enough of those individual cards to upgrade all of your characters. So it brings a lot of depth to the game, a lot of skill, a lot of challenge versus what type of character you're playing. But like I said, you were just playing the basic game, and you can see how much growth this game actually has.
So I will say, like we said, it's really well made. Like the pieces are nice. One of the things that I know you wanted to point out is even the box that it comes with has the good old vacuum mold, so you can actually separate all your decks. Very nice organization in there.
Everything fits in there. Instead of
A lot of games like these, you end up just having a mishmash of stuff and play the Ziploc game.
absolutely unnecessary with the way TheOp built this box.
That is really nice. That is a really nice feature. I would say one of my favorite things about this game, other than the fact that it's easy to pick up, play, learn, it's a lot of fun. Is I do like these reference cards. I know that like we play a lot of hero clicks up here. Everybody has their cheat sheet, so the fact that it gives you a cheat sheet and it makes you go through all the steps everybody sees and knows what's going on and remembers. And the fact that it builds to learn. They designed the way to learn to play. Add a little bit more. A lot of times with these board games, it's just here's a million rules. Congratulations, there you go. So the fact that this actually gives you a nice building block,
Playing core games, you will absolutely know how to play this game.
and that's really cool.
Building. And they're like 30-minute games. So the first one's
Yeah, I mean, and that was fun. I mean, we spent most of the time explaining what was going on, and it took us 41 minutes. We're at 41 minutes over the video right now, so we played for actually about 30 minutes for an easy round, and that was explaining what was going on. So we could have cut that in half if we weren't on our mouse. So, honestly, what's really cool. So MSRP on this is $50. You get like we went over earlier, you get 8 characters with all of their decks, the board, all of the little figures. So you get your figures, your deck cards, and
like this. The decks that we use only had 3 different status effects. There are many other status effects and characters that can put them out and create all different combinations in the game.
so all in all, across the board with this, because you have, I mean, it's a Disney game, and we know Disney owns almost everything that we love in this world now. So the characters are implicit what they can expand to. We already know that there's expansions coming.
They've already said 3 expansions, so we know a couple of them are close.
We got at least another year worth of new content coming out, or content coming out. So honestly, this game's a win. It's a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate you spending your Saturday afternoon to teach us how to play.
I'm glad you.
Yeah, I mean, it's Disney characters are big, so the game's easy enough that anybody at any age can really pick it up. I would say, probably say 8 to 10 would probably be the nice sweet spot to be able to pick it up.
I think it's 13 plus, but that's only really when you get into the more depth of that. But if you start playing at the
basic level, 8 to 10, easy. I mean, Monopoly is more complicated.
I've already had some younger kids come in and they picked it up.
And so, I mean, even the base version. I really like this, man. I think that this game is a win. It definitely is a lot of fun and easy to pick up and play. So I really do appreciate. Hopefully, we'll get some of y'all coming in and want to pick up a copy of, because it's a lot of fun. We do carry it here at Geek Out. So, and if things go well and we start building a good player base, we'll start doing some tournaments and stuff every once in a while.
And I already gave them some the tournament boxes that TheOp gave to us to hand out. So cool little boxes where you get the checklist, everything you need to bring.
And I'll say this is probably the most fun I've had playing a board game in a while.
Especially like your first playthrough.
Yeah, it was by turn 2. It was like, okay, this is what we're doing. And honestly, like I said, I love whenever games do cheat sheets, because that makes it a whole lot easier. So yeah, I appreciate it. Hey guys, thanks for spending some time with us. Disney Sorcerer Arena. It's super fun, super awesome game with all the characters we love and easy to pick up and play. Definitely 2 thumbs up, 4.5 stars, 9.5 out of 10. Lots of fun. So we'll see y'all around, guys. Thanks for joining us. Have a nice day.